Welcome to Beyond Resume, where careers and analytics come alive. This is where we explore the intersection of innovation and human experience, the stories that shape leaders, and the principles that drive success in our field. I am Kaushik, an advanced analytics and AI professional with over 20 years in the industry and a decade of leading high-performing teams. Today, I'm really excited to have someone special with me. Sanmita Sengupta is a credit risk specialist at Quantum Blue Data and Analytics Consulting. But before I tell you about her impressive career, let me share something very personal. Sanmita and I were batchmates during our post-graduation in statistics, and I have had the privilege of watching her career unfold over the past 20 years. She was one of the sharpest minds in our batch, highly accountable, hardworking, and deeply committed to her work. And those qualities have clearly served her well. Over 2 decades, Sanmita has built deep expertise in credit risk across India, Qatar, and Singapore. Her experience spans the entire life cycle of IRB and IFRS 9 frameworks. It also covers credit risk scorecards, model documentation, validation, and monitoring. She has navigated complex regulatory landscapes across PRA, MAS, and HKMA. That's not just expertise. That's mastery across global contexts. Sanmita, welcome to Beyond Resume. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Kaushik, for making me a part of this and for your effusive and beyond kind introduction. It is truly wonderful to be able to reconnect actually after all these years. I have also been a keen observer of your incredible transformation as an analytics leader over the years. And I take inspiration from your effort to share knowledge with the next generation of data analysts. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Sanmita. I really appreciated you calling it out. So again, I'm really excited that we reconnected after all these years, and especially how are we going to spend the next 30 minutes talking about some of the key elements from your journey so far. What I wanted to start with that, I remember our days together, but I'm curious about what really came after. How did you find your way into credit risk? What was it about this domain that caught your attention and made you want to build your entire career around it?
Interesting question, Kaushik. The honest answer is that my foray into credit risk was unplanned. As you know, I had started my career in a niche consulting firm specializing in pharma analytics. I was happy with the learning curve there. The trouble was the high employee churn rate, which made me a bit insecure. Hence, when the opportunity arose a year later, I moved into the fraud analytics team of a global bank.
Right. So from pharma to fraud analytics, that's quite a shift.
Actually, I didn't see it that way. As a newbie, the aim was to build my analytical skill set, right? So anyway, in 2008, I saw an internal job posting which intrigued me. The ask was to build Basel II compliant credit risk IRB models. Up until then, I had only heard of Basel as a city in Switzerland. So this was a pilot IRB project. The day job involved interpreting a lot of the regulatory material and incorporating these into the models. I loved the opportunity to be a part of something from ground up and enjoyed the attention that came with niche work.
Basel as just a city, I love that. So, is it that the pilot project really hooked you?
Yes, it actually did. One thing led to another, and even after I moved organizations, I continued with credit risk models. Around 2014-15, IFRS 9 came along, which opened another avenue of accounting-related credit risk models. There were so many new facets, not in the least due to increased regulatory focus over the world over, actually. And that actually has led me to continue in this field, and I haven't felt the need to move out of credit risk ever since.
Okay, so it started accidentally with Basel II project. And so what was it about the pilot project that made you think that, okay, this is where I want to be? Was it the regulatory challenge, the modeling work, or something completely different?
Initially, it was the thrill of learning something new every week. I remember that we were reading through thick papers and then debating the interpretation of the clauses within the team, now so often, right? But later, when I moved to Singapore, it became about sharing this knowledge with colleagues across businesses in the language that they understood. And finally, once you start seeing these models being approved by the various regulators, that is another high altogether, which propels you on.
Got it, got it. No, that makes sense. Now, Sanmita, over 20 years in credit risk, I'm sure that you have seen a lot, and I'm sure that there have been moments that really shaped you about how you think about this work. Can you take me back to one of those moments, maybe a situation that was tough, or maybe something that surprised you and taught you something very important about credit risk, about regulations, or about yourself?
Yeah, I remember this one time we had a virtual meeting with the central regulators who were in another part of the world. My team had submitted a model for regulatory approval a few months back, which we had estimated would result in a significant RWA release. Now, the meeting was going well unless someone asked why the lowest risk segment in our new model was getting lower PD estimate as compared to the current model.
Oh, I can certainly see where this is going.
Yeah, I think you're guessing it right. This was a simple technical question, which I feel I've been prepared for on. However, for some reason, I hadn't anticipated the question and I just blabbered something incoherent. Now, we came out of the meeting red-faced, and my line manager had some choice words for me randomly.
No, that's tough. I think that feeling when you know that you should have prepared for something.
Yeah, exactly. So to rectify, I went through the data and quickly prepared and sent over a one-slide comparison, adding reference to sections in our technical document for further details. Now, thankfully, the model was approved in the next couple of weeks. And the important lesson that I learned from this was the need for meticulous preparation, being accountable, and that regulators are willing to work with you if you allow them.
Yeah, but that must have been a tough moment for you when you came out of that meeting. I'm really keen to understand that what was going through your mind. Like, how did you handle that immediate feeling of not being prepared?
Absolutely, it was tough. I was kicking myself and dreading the worst, that perhaps I had let the approval and hence the massive RWA release slip through. The only way for me to handle it at that time was acknowledge my mistake openly, and start working on the remediation in the next hour itself.
No, I think that's the right approach. What has been done, of course, no one can go back and change it, but how it can be rectified, I think that's the approach that ideally people should take. So I totally agree. These situations can come to anyone's life. I have been through similar situations. We cannot change the past. The only thing that we can do is to prepare for the next time. No, that makes sense. And thanks for sharing that tough moment with us, Samita. Now, let's talk about the technical work you do, like credit risk modeling, regulatory frameworks, validation. These are really complex areas, and you have worked in multiple regulatory environments. What's something that you are seeing right now that's particularly important, like a challenge that keeps coming up, or maybe a shift in how we need to think about credit risk in today's environment?
You're right, Kaushik. Credit risk has evolved over the years to rise to the challenges of the times, right? Basel II evolved post 2004 to create a comprehensive risk-based framework for bank capital requirements. Provisioning models moved from an incurred loss based backward-looking IAS 39 to a forward-looking IFRS 9 ECL approach, incorporating the learnings from the 2007-2008 global financial crisis. Even Basel III evolved as a response to the GFC. And most recently, if you look at Basel 3.1, that aims to make the capital numbers reported across banks more consistent and comparable. So yes, there has been a lot of evolution.
Yeah, so the regulations keep evolving in response to any kind of crisis and market changes. But what does that mean for you as a practitioner?
As a practitioner, I find it important to stay informed about the regulatory thought process, especially around the various emerging risks. Everything is published online these days, right? So, for example, key regulators are now requiring climate risk related reporting, transparency around AI/ML models that various banks are adopting, etc. Most of these changes make sense when you think of the times that we live in.
So the climate risk and of obviously AI transparency, these are huge new areas, and I can imagine that must be adding a lot to your plate.
Yeah, at times the additional work required to comply with these new regulations can feel overwhelming, no doubt about it. While it is easy to fall into the ticking off the checklist kind of mindset, it is equally important to remember that if used correctly, the risk and governance teams can be great business enablers.
Okay. Okay. So now, Smita, you mentioned climate risk reporting and AI ML model transparency. Now, again, these are relatively new areas for regulators. Now, how do you see the credit risk practitioners are adopting to these? Like, what are the challenges? It's incorporating something like climate risk into traditional credit risk model.
Uh, See, Kaushik, with climate risk, the key challenge, according to me, is the data and how you model the physical risk aspect of it. To give you an example, a 30-year mortgage loan might need to consider the possibility of default risk if the underlying property goes underwater in the next 10, 20 years. Now, in order to do that, you need uh, area-wise flood-related data, famine-related data, storm data, cyclone data, etc. Right? This is not something that banks collect traditionally. So the best way I feel is to partner with organizations including universities who specialize in climate-related research, and get some physical risk-related scores. Once we get these scores, we can then incorporate this into the internal credit risk models as inputs.
No, that makes sense. So I think, as you correctly pointed out, that here the main concern or challenge is getting that data itself, because not in terms of the natural process, the way the other set of data elements gets captured. Here, we need to put some additional effort to get that data in place, because at the end of the day, these are certain critical factors which will have implications on the credit risk model that the practitioners will be developing. No, that makes sense, and something that I can say I really learned new today about these new factors which are making the credit risk modeling more comprehensive. No, appreciate you sharing that. Uh, Now, I would like to focus on the human side element. You know that you and I have known each other for a long time, and one thing you know that I've always respected about you is your commitment and accountability. Now, when you think about your work beyond the technical models and frameworks and challenges that you just talked about, what really drives you? Like, what's a value or principle that you always hold on to, especially when the work gets challenging?
Always been an eternal optimist. So, work and career challenges can dampen my spirit only temporarily. At the same time, I like to set realistic expectations. I don't claim to be able to build perfect models. That concept is a myth. I try to be upfront about the limitations of the work that I put forward so that an informed decision can be made on whether the solution that I propose works for the problem at hand or not.
No, I love that. I think, and that's refreshing, being upfront about limitations rather than overselling. I always love that approach.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned accountability, right? So that is key. If I do not know the answer, I will admit it immediately. However, I will also try my best to follow up and get you the answer or the alternate solutions in the time frame that I promise.
No, I respect that. I think admitting that when you don't know about something, that takes a lot of confidence and courage.
I honestly see that as saving myself the trouble of having to backtrack later from an over expectation bubble. Um, I have had the great I have had good fortune to work with great people, great professionals, and have shared good working relationship with people, even if I don't necessarily share a personal rapport with them. Neither do I shy away from addressing issues for the sake of conformity or to avoid conflict. And I think mature stakeholders understand and appreciate that aspect of my career and character.
No, absolutely. And I think you said that you had great working relationships with people. You don't necessarily share personal rapport, and you don't avoid conflict for the sake of conformity. That really takes courage. And honestly, I am still searching for that puzzle, right? And can you help me with one example of a time when you had to address an issue that others might have avoided, and how did that play out?
I agree, it is a tough balance. Um, as an example, I remember that someone senior had attended a stress testing conference and come away with 7, 8 points that he thought the regulators were asking for explicitly. Now, when we tested these against our models, several points seemed to be in non-compliance. So instead of accepting this verdict outright, I proposed that we set up a small task force to dig deep into each of these in detail. Thankfully, the stakeholders agreed, and with the effort of multiple teams, we were able to rectify most of the points and take the remaining few to the regulators for further discussion. So in the end, I think that worked out really well.
No, I love that approach. I think it was, as you mentioned, that it has to be a balanced approach. And the situation that you just shared and talked about, that certainly kind of, challenging the situation. But at the same time, the approach that you took is to work with everyone in your pursuit to solve the problem or the question or the conflict that you had in your mind. No, that's great. And I love that example, Sanmita. So we discussed about the human side, the technical side, how you got started. Now, now it's time to try something really quick. Let's switch it up. I have a few questions for you, just off the top of your head. Overthinking, right?
Bring it on, Kaushik.
All right. So, first one is that what's a skill that's not on your resume but has been absolutely critical to your success in credit risk?
The buck stops here attitude has helped me plow through.
Great, great. No, I can't agree more. All right. Next, is there a book, movie, or song that consistently inspires you? Something that you return to when you need perspective?
Yeah, I am a movie buff. And like most people, I love the triumph of underdog stories. So on top of my head, I think The Pursuit of Happiness and Invictus comes to mind right now.
Excellent choice. All right. Third, what's one thing that you wish that more people truly understood about credit risk modeling or regulatory frameworks?
That good credit risk modeling is about common sense and instilling business discipline.
Okay. Okay. And last one, you have worked across India, Qatar, and Singapore, different regulatory environments, different cultures. How has working across these regions shaped the way you approach credit risk and problem solving?
It has helped me appreciate different perspectives and has given me the ability to alternate between bird's eye view and hands-on approach.
Got it. Got it. Great. Samita, this has been such a valuable conversation, I must say. Before we close, I want to ask you one final question. If there is someone listening who is thinking about specializing in credit risk, or maybe they are already in the field but feeling uncertain about their path, what would you want them to know? Like, what advice would you give them based on everything that you have learned over these 20 years?
I would say know your domain, be curious, give it your best shot, trust your instincts, and enjoy the process. That's it.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Sanmita. It's been wonderful again to reconnect and hear about your journey. I'm grateful that you shared your insights with us today.
Now, Kaushik, it has been my pleasure truly to interact with you. And thank you for triggering memories through your well thought out questions. I wish you the best and am eager to see what else you have lined up next.
Thank you so much. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on Beyond Resume. Next time, we will be diving into another fascinating conversation with a leader who is shaping the future of analytics and AI. Until then, keep learning, keep connecting, and remember, your career is more than what's on your resume.